I want to talk about this plugin Darkfire by JMG. This is really something special and not just another boring saturation plugin. And I want to show you what's special about it and in what small way I was even involved in its creation. Let's dive into it. So in the beginning of last year, 2024, I had this thought. Why can't we ever turn up a mix of a saturation engine past 100%? So this is an extreme setting, very heavy distortion, but not a lot of dry wet, right? So that's kind of the opposite of a sound I like. I prefer subtle distortion, but 100% wet all the time. So what if I dial in very, very subtle distortion, but I could turn up the dry wet mix past 100%, and you might think that doesn't make any sense. What would even happen if you had a knob that went past 100% on dry wet? Well, let's talk about that. On my creator friends Discord, I even have a channel called Sentus Distortion. Here I conceptualized, shared what this plugin could be, and the most important part is you take the delta and then just boost the delta and mix it in back with the original signal. Let me show you how this could be done. This is the basic setup that we're going to rebuild right now. So step one is we saturate a specific band. Now we go into Studio One's routing system and we split the signal chain. You split this signal chain again. All right, so we have one path that is just a dry signal and another path where we do some parallel processing. And we need a mix tool that we use to invert the phase. So this signal path from splitter 2 to the output is phase inverted. So we only get the delta that this ozone exciter is adding. Let's hear that. Just the delta, we turn off this line. That's just the harmonic information that ozone exciter is adding with this band saturation. And now, like this, basically, we're just hearing the ozone exciter as it would without all the special routing, but we have the liberty of turning up the delta. Basically, if we have both these level controls at 0, we have a 100% wet-dry mix. Same thing as turning up and down this slider happens if we turn up and down this slider, up to 0 dB. But if we turn it past 0 dB, we can actually turn up the saturation past 100% wet-dry mix. The second idea I had was putting a filter past this whole module right here to select very carefully which part of the added harmonics you actually want to add to the signal path. Let's just hear the delta again. Maybe we don't want this low rumble. Dry with our processing. Straight into bed when I come home. Does anybody understand? Go out, bring home bread, go out, get some. They told me this 'cause I'm a man, but I'm looking out for one. Yeah, I'm not claiming I found the perfect settings. I just think this is a really interesting signal chain. And I had the vision of putting this into some sort of plugin. Many of you might know that I work with Melda and United Plugins and W Productions from time to time. So I reached out to them, asked if they had interest in working on this plugin together, because I'm not a programmer, I'm not a plugin developer. I just had this specific idea and something really unexpected happened. I talked to Jason, employee of United Plugins, Melda Productions, and also the developer of JMG plugins from United Plugins. And he said he's kind of working on a very similar plugin idea as well. And that's what turned into Darkfire. Specifically, my contribution seems to have been the high and low pass filters So you're also filtering the input, but all of the rest is kind of something that Jason came up with in parallel with me. So this harmonics level is a wet-dry mix that goes past 100%. You can go up to 200%, make the harmonics louder. You're filtering the input, you're filtering the output, but there's even more options you can do just to the delta signal of the saturated path. Let's hear it on a bass. One very handy control here is this monitoring button, which shows you just the delta signal that you're processing. But I have to say, even though this is technically more or less the plugin that I envisioned, I think I might still have to make my own version at some point if I have the motivation or the opportunity to do so. Because there's some things that are confusing me a lot. For example, why, if I hear the delta, do I even hear anything if I'm not really driving the plugin, right? Technically, I think there shouldn't be any harmonics added at some point. So even if I had the harmonics at 200% loudness, if I'm not driving the plugin, there shouldn't be a signal. But anyways, as it seems now, there's always some non-linearity going on, and you're always saturating the signal a bit, which is what you hear when you click the delta. We can drive it a bit more. By the way, I think I would always use the advanced view. I understand it's less clean looking, but it's definitely handy added controls. Let's kind of saturate the low end with this. But only keep kind of high-end harmonics. Now we have to really turn this up. I also honestly wish this harmonics level control would go past 200% to like 600%, so you can get really subtle harmonics and boost them like to really transform signals in an interesting way. Because if I have subtle distortion here, I'm getting very little signal out of it, right? And if I compare this to the dry signal, it's very subtle. So if I could turn up this a lot more, I would be more happy. You can even compress the harmonics, get some more of the high end out. And turns out my favorite setting in this plugin, it's this stereo knob. You're spreading just the added harmonics. You can also modulate the added harmonics or add a kind of analog convolution is what they write about depth. Yeah, you can definitely add interesting textures with this plugin to anything. Let's hear it on the drums. Let's turn down the harmonics a bit. Turn up the high end of the harmonics a bit. Let's also hear it on vocals. Seems I have heard enough, I have had enough, and you keep on bringing me down. I've had enough, I've heard enough. Sounds great, especially again, this stereo control is really a winner. Seems I have heard enough, I have had enough, and you keep on bringing me down. I've had enough, I've heard enough. Seems I have heard enough, I have had enough, and you keep on bringing me down. I've had enough, I've heard enough. And dry? Seems I have heard enough, wet. I have had enough. I think Darkfire is a very cool plugin, lovely looking UI, pretty good workflow, cool technology under the hood, but it doesn't give me exactly the results I hoped. Anyways, yeah, it was lovely being a little part of this cool plugin. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around, even if I have to take a month off or so every now and again because I'm busy with other things. That's how it is if you're not a full-time YouTuber. Bye!